Sports.
Dan Ingham, First National Bank of Central Texas. By the way, I think Dan put a social media post out this morning. Welcome to quarter zip season, baby.
That's right. That's right. To all who celebrate, and I do.
That's a great time of year.
Oh, but it's just when you walk out and it's cool in the morning and you want to feel like you're a corporate person, you put one of these on. Oh, yes.
Well, by the way, I wanted to feature you this morning in the cowboy hat that you posted some amazing pictures with you from the fair, the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo with the cowboy hat on, but I couldn't find any permanent ones. They were all the vanishing ones. Like
the story. Yes. I'm sure I can find you. Yes. Oh yeah.
I mean, you officially are Big Tex. I mean, like
I don't know about that. Yeah.
You looked pretty sharp, dude, out there with the
cowboy. You put the right hat on, you can look all right, I guess.
I know. You can pull it off.
When you grow up in Oklahoma, you learn to wear a cowboy hat. So
you do learn to wear a cowboy hat. And if you're Mike Gundy, apparently you learn to deal with cattle at some point. No kidding.
Like, did he get hit in the eye or something like that? Dude, is that what I heard?
So I was getting ready for that Big 12 show that we do. So to get ready for it, you talk to some people, but you look up every press conference you guys have had. And I was like, well, this is interesting. Mike Gundy's press conference, you can't find any video. And then I come to find out it was on Zoom, and it was on Zoom because he'd, according to him, been headbutted by cattle and had an oozy, bloody eye. And he said really he had to be perpendicular for most of the week, and that he didn't know how involved he was going to be able to be in the game planning. I just looked for an update, and I haven't seen anything yet.
Well, I mean, I think we would have heard something he's not going to coach. I heard him say that he felt like he was going to be able to, but
okay.
Yeah, that's that kind of is on par for the season. So yeah,
it is on par. And now you're going into this week. You're talking about the potential of, and today we will find out who the starting quarterback will be. Whether it's
not going to be Bowman. Yeah,
it's not going to be. So it'll be Rangel or Zane Flores.
So there's been a lot. Flores is probably the more talented of the two.
What's the story with him?
But apparently he hurt his foot in practice at some point, and it's kind of. So I think you would have seen him already, but I don't know how bad the injury is, and so we'll see. Yeah, I think that it was. I felt bad for Bowman because students were chanting for Flores at the last game, that kind of, because everybody loves the 4-star freshman. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But
most popular guy in town.
Exactly.
The quarterback who's not playing.
We'll see. But Bowman, it's just not working out, man. He's not been good this year.
Yeah.
So
do you think he's part of the problem, or is
he the
problem?
Part. I mean, to put it on. I mean, the O-line is not. The defense is brutal. So I mean, put it. But I mean, Gunny pretty much. I did hear a little snippet where he said what's his problem? He's not stepping into the throws, so he feels a little pressure and he throws off his back foot, and that's when he's inaccurate. He said it's really as simple as that. It's real easy for me sitting here. Hey, step into your throw as a 300-pound man's about to hit you. I mean, it's real easy to say, but that's what really good quarterbacks can do.
Well, you see, that's why I like you. I was listening to our friend Matt Mosley here at the Rogue Media Network, who has the Doomsday podcast with Ed Werder. He was on with Cowherd yesterday, so I listened to the whole interview. And Cowherd, I don't care. He's talking about, how Dak throws. And I don't like how Dak throws. I like how Jared Goff throws, but I don't think, Dak's not as good a thrower as, player X. And I'm just like, get out of here. And Mosley even said, he's like, well, I know you watch your own film, Colin, but some other experts would disagree, because that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
When I look for Colin Cowherd to be compelling, to be entertaining. God knows he's wildly talented.
Sure.
But I save the football talk for Peyton Manning. Yeah. Do you subscribe to that as well?
100%. I'm the same way. Do you ever watch on Monday night when they do their Monday Night Football? Peyton gets so frustrated with bad quarterback play. Yes. He'll roll his eyes and be like, "Oh," So, you can tell if the quarterback's doing something wrong.
Yes, and that's who I want to hear it from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because there is, and I don't know if it's like this with you, but there's a line, even the guy who was the Carolina Panthers GM, and he ended up being, I think, the Giants GM, Marty Herney.
Yeah,
and he was a sports writer initially, and he somehow crossed over. But I can. For whatever reason, it's for me. There's a line Marty Herney, the sports writer, tell me how a guy can throw is much different than Marty Herney, the former GM, tell me how a guy can throw. You know what I mean?
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Do you find yourself giving just more credence to people because they've crossed that line? And
100%. And I have found myself like if I'm being truthful, being a snob about stuff too. Like in terms of if I'm at a basketball game and I hear fans with really uneducated takes.
Yeah.
Again, I played basketball at a certain level, but I've been around it a lot, and I just want to be like, I want to be quiet. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not 3 seconds in the lane. Once you leave, they started, but
you're you're like me in a sense that you know that you don't know, or that there's so much you don't know.
100%. Yeah.
Like there's so much going on in that locker room, in that huddle, 100%. In that kid's life that or the ref, who knows?
Yeah.
All right, we got to talk Cowboys now. Whew. What is your last memory of it being this bad for the Cowboys from a public perception standpoint? Because they're getting their ass kicked every time out at home.
I mean, it's so weird. And so the reality is, I was thinking about this morning. They're still 3-3. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to say that they haven't been awful at home. I mean, it's embarrassingly bad. They're blown out every time. I mean, they made the Ravens game close, but but they're still 3-3 and like a game out of first. So I would still say it was much worse the Quincy Carter era. You weren't around, but I
remember.
So those were teams that had no hope. So this Dallas Cowboy team still has hope to be a team that gets in the playoffs and then doesn't win a playoff game. But so I wouldn't put it at that level, I guess.
Did you bail on the game last week?
Oh yeah. Well, a little bit. So we had my wife's 98-year-old grandfather over.
Oh wow,
he's still doing pretty good. Newman Copeland lives here in Waco, Newman. And so we had him over to watch. And so I was kind of stuck watching it, because we were just kind of sitting there and I was cooking. I think we had beef tips or cooking, and so I just kind of sit there and take it. So actually, I think I did watch most of it, unfortunately. Yeah.
There became a point where I watched the first half and then I went out. I was outside and I listened to Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg just because it was at that point it was a spectacle.
Yeah,
it had gotten that bad.
Are you a fan of them together?
Oh God,
I think they're so good.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazing, and it's
Brad
weird.
Sham still got it too. Yeah,
he sure does. Yeah, I mean, I tell the story here when I was driving back from Burleson last November, and I put on the game just to hear him. It was a Thursday night, and he wasn't on. It was the one where he had some kind of health thing. And Kyle Yeomans,
and he knocked
on,
and he did well. He found out that day. It wasn't like he got to do. Now, luckily, Kyle, I believe, works for the Cowboys too. So at least it's not like you're throwing him on an alien planet. But I mean, as you know, the prep you do for doing play-by-play is a lot different.
Dude, we do enough for a high school game, let alone a college game.
100%.
With the pros, I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. But Yeomans did say, I asked him about that, and he said he always has boards because for his pregame show and everything.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So
because he's active on game day. You're right.
Yeah. But I was very impressed with his call. But I did miss Brad Sham. But I think they do an amazing job.
Let me throw out a Cowboy stat that I looked up this morning.
Yeah,
so they last won the Super Bowl in '96, the '95 season.
Okay.
So since then,
96. Huh?
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
I
was still
97, 96.
No, I was still in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat Pittsburgh. Since then, you total up all the wins they have the 9th most wins of all teams. You're thinking, okay, so they've been a solid team. They have the 17th most playoff wins in that same amount of time. So they get into the playoffs and they don't want to play out. I mean,
so do you attribute that to Jerry Jones? I'm kind of over this is me personally. I'm like, let's get off the Jerry Jones is the problem. Like if you've got a team,
because that's not going to change.
Yeah.
Until until something happens, but
yeah,
I mean, they're not getting rid of the team and they're just good enough. I mean, they're not like Dan Snyder bad with the Reds or the Commanders, So I mean, they've won games, just not important ones. You know what I mean?
There was also a stat too, or a factoid that was brought up by Cal Hurd talking to Mosley yesterday that the Giants have fed off the lesser opponents in the NFC East over the course of the past 10 years, which I think is BS too, because every division has bottom, teams that are on the bottom and teams you can just beat up. So I don't think there's much credence to that. I believe the Cowboys are winning. Something's happening when they get to the postseason. And of course you have to be accountable if you're the owner or if you're the coach, but they're putting together teams that can win in the NFL.
I'll tell you what's frustrating this year. All offseason, people said the Cowboys aren't doing enough. They're not picking enough players because the Cowboys have been pretty good at drafting. They have been pretty solid. Since Stephen Jones took over that side of things, they've actually drafted pretty well. They kind of stood pat, and all they did was re-sign Lamb and Dak in terms of major. And I think and people are like, they're not doing enough. They should have got a running back. There's not enough depth. There's not a number 2 receiver. And we're kind of seeing that. You know?
Yeah. I thought that was odd that they didn't make any big plays.
I mean, Derrick Henry.
Yeah. He wanted to come here.
He lives in Dallas.
Yeah. And I don't understand that when Jerry tells the media he couldn't afford him, but I don't know. You know. Yeah. What do you think about Dak Prescott, how he's been playing since that contract? What have you noticed about it? And I'll tell you something that Troy Aikman said just about an hour ago.
So I'll be curious because that's someone I want to hear. Yeah. But I mean, I think he's been very Dak-like. But I mean, the red zone turnovers are brutal. Like that. He had an early red zone turnover where it was still a ball game, and then that kills the momentum. Yeah. I think that's 2 or 3 times that's happened this year, and that's brutal. Yeah.
Aikman said that he was the wide receivers run horrible routes, and he's thought that for beyond this year, and he said that CD runs his routes leave a lot to be desired, and he said as a quarterback that makes your
his talent just kind of makes it, but yeah. Well, that's, and Troy is not someone who's going to defend a quarterback just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But that's nice to hear. I mean, I think I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times now, but like, is Dak a top 5 quarterback? No. Is he a top 10-ish? Yeah. And like, if you take him off this team, they're not a playoff team probably. I'm sorry, Cooper Rush probably isn't going to lead you to playoffs.
No.
Now, can he win the Super Bowl? I don't know.
Yeah, but you'd rather have Dak than the majority of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah. The sure thing.
So let's get to your picks now, Dan.
All right, let's see here.
You were 1-1 last week. You crushed it with the Lions.
Yeah.
Right? You did, boy.
Yeah, and then I picked Oklahoma, and I forgot their offense is hot garbage.
But you know what? The day after, and I guess it was a homer pick, but the day after you were sitting here with us, Chris Williams, who's in Oklahoma City, he picked Oklahoma too. He said, they're not going to win. He said, but their defense is good enough. They'll cover that.
That's what I thought too. The defense, they couldn't do enough offensively to keep up with Texas.
All right. So what do we got this week?
So I'll start college football. So Utah is taking on TCU, 4.5-point favorite. Cam Rising out for the season. I think that in a weird way, that's a good thing for Utah.
I agree.
Because my God, it's been the Cam Rising saga for. Did you know he can get an 8th year possibly? Which is
he may come back too.
Wouldn't you kind of want to just move on a little bit?
I would.
Because here's the deal, too. If you're Utah, you don't have a Texas or an Alabama size NIL budget. And for someone like Cam, he's either going to have to be cheap or move on, because I wouldn't want to spend another, I don't even know what the going rate. I'm guessing between $500,000 and $1 million for a guy like that.
I heard a rumor. Hang on to your seat here, that Will Howard was offered $4 million from Baylor and turned it down. And I heard that from a pretty good source.
I don't know. I have no reason to not believe it, but
that's crazy.
That seems.
So let's say
just because of the market of what it is, that's more than the market is.
So I give a $1 million BS bonus to that. Yeah. So let's say it's 3. That's still crazy. Yeah. It's amazing. All right. So we were talking about Cam Rising.
So I like TCU is not good this year.
Okay.
And Utah's been up and down, but I like them giving 4.5 to TCU. I think, all right, we can move on. We're going to get behind Wilson's little brother and go win a game by more than 4.5 points. So
Mekhi Bernard, Utah's running back, feels the same way you do. He said, we wish we had Cam. But at the same time, this is the first week all year long, outside of the first, I think, 1 or 2, that we're able to have one game plan and go into a game knowing who our starter is and to feel good about ourselves.
I couldn't. No, he said it perfectly. So I just kind of like them this week. On the pro side, I kind of like the Ravens. They're at Tampa Bay, so Tampa Bay's looked really good. Baltimore's the best team in football. They're going to go down and assert their will against Tampa Bay.
A 2-loss Baltimore team is the best in football.
Yep, I really believe that.
All right,
I know you are what your record is. I get that.
No.
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota has had the most impressive run. I'll go with it, but I think Baltimore right now is the best team.
Take it to the bank with Dan Ingham.
That's right.
First National Bank of Central Texas. Dude, thank you for coming by.
Anytime, my man.
It's always insightful. It's always fun.
Yeah, these are fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, if you want to grow your money too, you know where to go. First National Bank of Central
Texas. And right now, so we have a new promotion. If folks want to open up a new checking account, you get a walk. So you want to make stir fry at home, you get a walk.
Really?
Is it random as hell? Yeah. We're giving away a walk, baby.
There you go.
That's
First
right.
National Bank of Central Texas.
Toasters are so 1950. Okay.
All right, Dan. Thanks a lot. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network. We'll be back with Cam Stewart in our final segment.